Bitcoin struggling. Saylor looks to be the only one buying as Q1 draws to a close with BTC's price still suppressed. Is 70k on the cards? Hyperliquid Drama, as a wily trader is prevented from wrecking one of crypto's most popular new platforms. Is decentralization dead and buried? Liberation, you say? Global markets brace for impact as Trump's tariffs are due to take effect on Wednesday. And a look at last week's top-performing cryptos, dates for your diary, tweets of the week, heroes and villains, and much more besides. This is the Coin Bureau News, live. Hello everyone, and a very happy Monday to you one and all. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Coin Bureau Weekly News Live. I am joined, of course, by Nick. How are you, sir?
Happy Monday, guys. Yeah, all good, you?
I'm okay, thanks.
Yeah,
I'm okay. I'm bearing up.
You bearing up?
Yeah.
Bearing up, meaning?
Bearing up, yes. Slightly
bearish for this week.
Slightly bearish.
You're not happy for Liberation Day?
I can't say Liberation Day, the idea of it is filling me with joy.
Come on, we're going to be freeing ourselves of the strictures of free trade, man.
Freeing ourselves of profits, more like. Yeah, it's an interesting time as ever. Trump's tariffs or the threat of Trump's tariffs are wreaking havoc in the markets once again. So we are going to discuss that in a bit more detail a little later on. But of course, it wouldn't be a Coin Bureau Weekly News Live without first taking a look at what Bitcoin has been up to for the last week or so. But before we get into that, can I just remind you folks, we like to do a sentiment check after the first story, see how everyone's feeling, see how everyone's holding up and coping. So do let us know in the comments what your sentiment levels are like. Are you bullish, bearish, or somewhere in between?
Help set the tone for the stream, exactly.
Exactly. We want this to be about you guys as much as anything else. But Nick, Bitcoin.
Starting off with the Bitcoin price as usual. So today, just prior to this, about an hour ago, we of course had the savior, the one and only savior, the Saylor, coming out buying more Bitcoin. And this time he went large again, man. He went large again.
Did go large, yeah.
His size is size. And he went in for $1.9 billion worth of Bitcoin in a buy. So that was now, there was 22,000 Bitcoin. And now MicroStrategy holds 528,000 Bitcoin.
Wow.
Talk about him. Talk about large bags.
That guy just keeps on stacking.
Yeah. The only thing is way more than his bags or his balls.
What a beautiful image.
So, like the South Park image of the Randy Marsh walking there.
Yes.
Anyway, speaking of large Michael Saylor balls.
Please go on.
Last week, he did exactly the same thing,
yep.
Which we'll come back to in a bit. But let's roll back to last week so you guys can keep updated with what exactly happened as it relates to Bitcoin and the Bitcoin price. So last week, if you will recall, I don't know if I mentioned this in the stream, but we started last week with a bit of a rally during the week. And this opened up a CME gap, a Chicago Mercantile Exchange gap, and these are generally kind of closed. These tend to come and close. Markets tend to close them later on. So this opened up a gap about $2,000 at the beginning of the week from the 83 level as Bitcoin jumped open. So remember that point because we'll come back to it a bit later. And then, of course, markets did rally last week, Monday, because of, there was potential thoughts around tariffs being lifted, as well as, of course, Saylor buying with another $500 million buy last week as well. So there were lots of high hopes last week, Monday, and Bitcoin reached that 88K level.
I mean, we were speculating, weren't we, certainly in the headlines, that we might breach 90K.
Exactly, yeah. We just didn't make it. It just stopped 89K, yeah.
Now we're trying to hold 80K.
No, we're trying to hold 80K, as usual, man. As always, the inevitable roller coaster goes and goes. We did test 8K, as I mentioned, and last week, Tuesday, we got the news that GME, so this is GameStop, the famous meme coin stock, they had disclosed that they were considering adding Bitcoin to their treasury, a la the Michael Saylor strategy playbook. Mm-hmm. And then on Thursday, they came out and they said they were going to potentially issue $1.3 billion worth of debt, convertible senior notes, to buy more Bitcoin.
It was interesting to see how this was kind of received, wasn't it? I think it was really kind of indicative of market conditions, because I think most people, certainly in crypto, certainly that I was seeing on the timeline, were pretty cynical about it. It's like, this is a pretty blatant attempt by a struggling company to pull the MicroStrategy playbook off, and most people generally thinking, yeah, it's probably not going to work again. And I just feel that if we'd been flying high, if prices had been 90k or in the 100k range, this would have been hailed as like a gigabrain move. But because the market is depressed, everyone was just like, it ain't going to work.
Yeah, it's true. They didn't react well to it. The price was down by about 20% on the announcement of that convertible raise. And as you alluded to, potentially there's current shareholders who think that, look, this is just a last Hail Mary. They didn't like it very much, also because they were using cash versus to buy Bitcoin. And then also there was potentially people who were selling and shorting GME going into the convertible note pricing, right? So they're trying to arbitrage that. And the short interest on GME reached its highest level since back in 2021.
Wow.
So that's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was Thursday. Friday, we had some very important economic numbers out. This was, of course, the PCE numbers, the Personal Consumption Expenditures Index, which is, of course, the Fed's preferred measure of inflation. Headline numbers were in line with expectations. However, core was slightly up and above expectations. So that showed that there was still some sticky inflation, and the markets did indeed sell off on top of that. And as a result of that, coming back to the CME gap that I mentioned earlier, we did close that CME gap. So there we go. You
called it.
I called it, of course. Yes, don't help it. The CME gap is, quite fortuitous for us.
Okay.
Generally tends to close, which we'll come back to in a bit. Again, another CME gap opened up over the week. Of course, it was a really crappy quarter, Guy.
Yes, I have to say, well, today is the last day of Q1 2025.
May it be forever, may we never remember it again. Shall we relegate it to the back of our minds?
Let's never speak of Q1 2025 again, shall we?
Could you have imagined in the beginning of Q1 we'd be saying this?
We had such high hopes. We really did. I mean, we could talk for the entire stream about how the hopes
it's
for
the
Q1
inevitable
2025 have been dashed. But yeah, it was an absolute stinker.
The virtual cycle. We're so over. We're so back. It's so over. Anyways, it was a really crappy quarter. Volumes are also, and this is from K33 Research, volumes across spot volumes are also they're at their lowest 5-month low in the right now. So this is spot trading volumes. So that's another data point to less interest in trading right now. And then this is also another data point. This is the contango, which is, of course, the difference in the futures, the CME futures price, the 1-month futures price versus the spot price. And it basically shows that there's demand for adding long exposure is staying soft right now. So there's not that much demand to go long on the CME futures versus the spot. There was also some interesting data from Glassnode, and this is some on-chain data. And basically what this shows is that most of the short-term holders who've bought recently, the prices that they bought at, they're obviously below those prices. Right. So they're in the red, and the unrealized losses are permeating throughout the short-term holder cohort. And this is, of course, creating significant financial pressure for them and stress for investors.
Okay, so those short-term holders are feeling the strain.
They're feeling the strain. However, it's not all that bad, because this chart shows the percentage of the network wealth that is held by short-term holders, i.e. those who've bought in the past 6 months, right? Okay. And it's at a much lower level than it was in previous peaks, which therefore means that there's not that much a short-term holder in terms of network wealth right now that could dump on the market. And then also, not only that, but the short-term holders themselves are less likely to send their coins, to spend their coins or sell their coins, because the normalized volume, which is spent by this cohort, is at the lowest levels we've seen since May 2021. So the TLDR is, while the recent buyers are in a loss, they're hodling strong. Diamond hands, hodling strong.
Well, you've got to have a long-term outlook.
Yeah.
If crypto's taught us one
thing. So if you're a new recent buyer and you're hodling strong, congrats, guys. Well done.
Yeah.
So what's coming? That's the most important. What's happening this week? Well, as I alluded to before, we have got the Liberation Day coming on the 2nd, which we'll talk about in depth a bit later on. So true, right? It's so true.
So true.
And then, of course, we've got NFP at the end of the week, non-farm payrolls.
Okay.
So get ready for some volatility. Coming back to the CME gap I mentioned. So last night, we opened up another CME gap to the downside.
Right.
So basically what that means is we should potentially come back and close that gap. So the gap went from about 83,000 down to 82,000.
Okay.
So hopefully we could come back and close that gap. Although right now it's not looking too good, bruv, because the futures market for stocks, as the stock markets are opening in about, 20 minutes from now in the US, they're looking down, right?
Okay.
As well as we've also had the Nikkei close at like -4%. So it's going lower on the stock side, which could impact on crypto.
A timely reminder that it's not just crypto markets
Exactly.
that are suffering at the moment.
In fact, most of it is TradFi that's driving, the risk-off sentiment right now.
Yeah.
But if you guys want to keep up to date with the markets on a daily basis, as well as how to trade, of course, we will turn you over to the Coin Bureau trading channel. We're already 2 new videos out today. One from Aaron, which takes a look at where the BTC's dip is over and whether there could potentially be an opportunity for some mid-cap altcoins right now.
Okay.
And then Dan the Man also released a video on why it's too soon to be bearish on alts. So if you guys want to subscribe to the Coin Bureau trading channel, I will, of course, refer you to the QR code in the top right of the screen, which is right over here.
Okay.
Behold the QR code.
Beautifully done, Nick. Beautifully done. Okay. Would you like a read on how the sentiment is holding up?
Tell me, guy. I'm dying to know.
Okay. I must say, it's actually pretty good.
Oh.
But I'll start with this one that I just thought was great from Dudgeon Sound. Crypto won't save you from your inevitable death. Touch grass, smell the flowers, and be with your people. All right,
I mean,
chill
to
out.
be honest, that is true, unless you have billions and billions and you try and do the Brian Johnson routine,
That is true.
You could try that,
That is true. I want to give a quick shout out to Kranskinator as well. Always first there in the comments. So
Grabbing his popcorn.
Respect to that. Nick, there's something we haven't talked about. The elephant in the room, if you like. What on earth have you come dressed as?
I'm being informal, no?
Discovering Florida, realtor Renata thinks very elegant.
I mean, I got to represent the Coin Bureau, bro. I mean, you're slacking with your shorts over there, bro. So we need to have someone who actually brings some class and panache to the stream,
I'm absolutely lost for words. Fortunately, Erwin isn't. Guy definitely lost some weight. Keep it up. Yep. Nick, please dump the jacket. I see. Not everyone's a fan.
Oh, really? Why, bro? No. I'm going to a funeral after this.
Yeah.
Eats death.
Oh, so you're not getting married today?
No, not today.
Eats funeral. Oh, my word. Guy looks like Florida man, but the Crocs will seal the deal for me as a trailer park girl from Florida. It's not Crocs, I'm afraid.
No, look, there is an office policy. No Crocs are allowed in this office.
Yeah.
Not at all. That is a fireable offence.
Yeah, I haven't quite given up yet. Rene Montenegro is bearish, 60k soon.
Oh, 60. Oh, okay.
Yeah, generally though, Nickelback postponed the tour. Crypt and Leroy Huff, which is a fantastic name, says crypto legislation will favor utility. Get ready. We hope so.
We hope so.
We
indeed.
hope so.
DeFi utility, yeah.
Yeah, just generally looking through, Guy, why are you not wearing a suit? Just don't start. Just don't start. Generally, I think sentiment is better in the chat than I would have imagined, given where we are with the prices.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can't turn that around and make everyone more bearish. No, I'm only kidding. But let's talk about now. Every week in crypto, there's a big old drama going on. That's nothing new. We're used to that.
Yeah. In fact, it'd be a weird week if there wasn't some drama going on.
Yeah, it would be a case of it's too quiet.
Something's going on here.
Yeah. But fortunately, last week, it wasn't too quiet. There was a lot of drama going on, and it focused around Hyperliquid.
Yeah.
Now, Hyperliquid, it's fair to say, has been very popular. I've seen so much chat about it on crypto Twitter. I think probably the airdrop that they did, the fact that the token has performed pretty well in general, and has therefore propped up quite a few people's portfolios. I think generally people were a lot more disposed towards it. There was also a lot of talk about how it's a very good protocol. It works well. A lot of people seem to be using it. A lot of people seem to be enjoying using it, etc. However, someone was using it last week and not and in a rather nefarious way. So there was basically an attempt to exploit the protocol, which came very, very close to success. So Nick, you broke this down in a tweet, didn't you?
I'll break it down for you guys now very quickly. I think it's also important. The reason I think it's important to talk about this isn't because there are so many threads to pull on in terms of what it could imply for not just the question of decentralization versus decentralization indexes as well as sexes, and then was it an exploit or was it a profitable trading strategy? We'll get onto that in a bit. So I'll quickly break it down for you, of course. Now, the quick TLDR is that you had some trader who obviously deposited 7 million across three accounts on Hyperliquid. He goes long a small cap shitcoin called JELLYJELLY on 2 of them, and he shorts on a 3rd account. He pumps the coin on chain because it's a very low liquidity coin. JELLYJELLY is not necessarily a very strong project. I don't know if you heard of JELLYJELLY before this.
I'd heard of Jelly,
I'd heard of it.
Yeah.
It was a failed VC attempt at some sort of a joke coin.
Yeah.
So he then pumps it on chain, obviously, which leads to the gains on his 2 long accounts, but then of course big losses on his big short account, right?
Yeah.
Now, of course, he withdraws some of the P&L on his long accounts, but the short account, which is the biggest account, position at Hyperliquid, which is a massive position in terms of size, open interest, all that, it goes into liquidation, right? But because it's such a big position and because it's such a small altcoin, it can't be an orderly liquidation. So the HLP, which is the Hyperliquid pool vault, it had to take over that position and try and attempt an orderly liquidation. And this is, of course, everyone knows they have to liquidate the position. It leads into a short squeeze potentially on-chain as well. And there was also some exchanges that launched the futures markets on it, which therefore led to potential short squeeze. And then the Hyperliquid pool itself, or the Hyperliquid vault, would have to take a massive loss because there were like millions in loss on that position. What they decided to do, though, which we'll talk about in a bit, is they decided to say that the Oracle price, the entry price, is the price that was higher than the short, which therefore means they effectively, of their choice, decided to make the trade a losing trade, and they gained like 700K. So they shut down the JELLYJELLY market, they restricted his withdrawals, but that's exactly the play-by-play of what happened.
Okay. So, I mean, first of all, because I mean, this trade essentially, the trade that this person put on, the two long positions and the short position, there's nothing illegal about that.
No.
And I think that probably raises questions for Hyperliquid, doesn't it? Because this trader was able to enter these positions on a relatively low cap, probably quite illiquid shitter. So that is something that I'm sure will be part of the post-mortem, that Hyperliquid are no doubt conducting on this. Now, what the trader obviously did wrong was this market manipulation off of Hyperliquid, this on-chain pumping of Jelly's market cap.
Yeah.
So the trades themselves on Hyperliquid weren't illegal.
Yeah, they weren't themselves, but his attempt to definitely send the HLP or the position into liquidation, knowing it would have these impacts. So this brings me back to mind. Recall Mr. Avi Eisenberg, the infamous highly profitable trading strategy, that landed him locked up in the MDC with Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah,
he was the guy who exploited mango markets. So yeah, I think it was obviously a market manipulation, which is illegal. It's fraud. So that answers that question. And obviously Hyperliquid themselves labeled it as suspicious market activity. But now the question comes down to the centralization versus the DeFi thing. Censorship resistance has come under fire for this around, does Hyperliquid choosing the price and choosing the actual settlement price and adjusting the Oracle price, the mark price, far away from what it has on the market, is that just centralization on a DEX, and are they choosing winners? And there was quite a bit of pushback from the centralized exchanges, obviously, because obviously Hyperliquid's a main competitor to the centralized exchanges. Like we had the CEO of BitGate come out and label it as suspicious activity.
Yeah, I think she said it. I think she used the term FTX 2.0.
Yeah, fighting words there. But there are many alternative takes here, and I think there's no one size fits all. And I think that the Hyperliquid team were in a very difficult position because, for one, I think it's a matter of the people who contributed to the vault, they would have to have lost in the vault, and it was market manipulation. And I think it's also a situation where if you're a Hyperliquid user, right, and you were involved in this, did you think that it was fully decentralized?
Well, this is something that Arthur Hayes pointed out, didn't he? You know, he said like literally no one is using Hyperliquid and in imagining that it's decentralized. Like that is just a meme. Which okay, fair enough. I think he's probably right. I don't think anyone did imagine that Hyperliquid was decentralized. The problem becomes, you know, if it's claiming to be decentralized. It's this odd thing between perception and reality, and how a protocol chooses to market itself, because it's sort of, you know, one of Hyperliquid's selling points is that it's not a sex. And obviously, you know, being able to do these, you know, sexes obviously, you know, they're centralized, of course. Most of them also require things like KYC, you know, so Hyperliquid is kind of marketing itself as an alternative to these. But if it's able to sort of take these decisions unilaterally, then the difference between Hyperliquid and just a regular centralized exchange, that line starts to get very, very blurred.
It does, but I think that it comes back to the traders themselves and the people who've been supporting Hyperliquid, using Hyperliquid. You know, it's also transparent to a certain degree, which is another thing about it. You know, it was done through a vote. Yes, it was a very swift vote. Yes, this comes back to the question of validator centralization, but it was done via a vote, and it was transparent in the sense that people knew what was going on. When it's a centralized exchange, you can't see what's going on behind the order books necessarily. But yeah, I guess I don't know if they necessarily came out there and professed to be the most decentralized protocol out there. I think the goal they said was, we're going to create a highly performant on-chain trading experience, which is what we offer. And as a perp DEX, they have been the most successful without a doubt. And you know. And then there's many different takes, and we can discuss this ad nauseum, like in terms of the degrees of decentralization, and you know, does this put them up into potentially in terms of risks from a regulatory perspective? Because then, okay, you're not really a DEX because you have this centralized control.
Yeah. Well, I think the regulatory angle is worth mentioning as well, because obviously, you know, that does give a hostile regulator much more ammunition to come in and say, well, you're not decentralized. You're manipulating things in favor of one party or the other. I think the problem with this argument is that it's very, very circular, isn't it? Because you keep coming back to, well, is code law?
Yeah.
Do you let it run, or do you protect your users? And the Hyperliquid chose to protect their users, which is probably the right thing to do, because if that short had, you know, that short being covered by HLP, that would have seen Hyperliquid users, because they were contributing to the vault, that they would have been out of pocket.
100%, yeah. And now this is actually interesting as well, because it comes down to the future of Hyperliquid. Now, obviously, in the wake of this, the price of HLP did fall. Hype did fall, and there were outflows in terms of with the withdrawals. But the question now comes to, and there's two ways you can view it, them having intervened in this market to stop a malicious exploit, market manipulation, or whatever. Did this potentially lead to an indication to the market that if you try and exploit us in a malicious way, we will adjust the market to hurt you, right? To hurt your position, and therefore disincentivize any further kinds of these kind of activities, malicious market activity. That's the one angle, and I think that's potentially the one that's going to lead to more growth for Hyperliquid. The other angle you can take is, well, large traders are going to feel uncomfortable entering positions there, because they think if they can adjust and choose the Oracle price, what happens if I'm in a really big winning position and they adjust it as well? Have they started a slippery slope of a precedent? It's a very, you know, it's a difficult one there to square that circle. But I think that it could potentially be disincentivize any sort of malicious activity. And indeed, Hyperliquid has gone back and adjusted many of the terms and protocol limits when it comes to margin requirements and other safeguards. So
yeah. I mean, I guess there's the sense that it could become, because of what you mentioned, you know, exploiters are probably going to avoid it because they know that they could get their position closed out. Also, it's probably going to be avoided by whales for the reasons that you said. I guess maybe that sets it up as the kind of ideal exchange for retail. You know, people doing sort of small to medium-sized trades. You know, that would probably give them a lot more confidence in Hyperliquid. I think the only other thing worth mentioning is something that Zach XBT raised, and he said, well, this is all well and good, Hyperliquid acting to protect their users when an exploit was happening, when market manipulation was taking place, and closing down this person who, they were acting illegally because of that market manipulation. But as Zach sort of pointed out, it's like, well, what happened when it was suspected that DPRK accounts were using Hyperliquid? And again, this is why this is such a thorny argument, isn't it? Because it's sort of like, well, there are arguments on both sides, and it's so difficult to arrive at a conclusion about what is the best way to operate. Yes, you should protect people against illegal use of the protocol, but then what about North Korea?
Yeah, indeed. Lots of food for thought there, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's time for the wall of fame and shame.
The weekly rise and falls. Here's the walls.
Love that soundtrack. Okay, there was only, it was quite difficult to, oh my goodness.
What's this from? Is this from Lord of the Rings or something?
Yeah. I mean, that's basically my dad without the beard. Wonderful.
It does not look like any of my parents.
I
hope I don't grow up looking like that. God.
This is Coin Bureau in 2040.
That's when the bull market finally comes.
ETH's just hit 4K again. So yes, there was only one candidate for the Wall of Fame this week. The person, he's the only buyer. Saint Michael of Saylor.
He's the marginal buyer. Yes, we thought it would be nation states, but no, it is just one individual, Mr. Saint Saylor.
And of course, Michael also unable to resist the lure of Studio Ghibli from the new ChatGPT image generator. So well done, Michael Saylor. I think he'll have to be considered for a permanent spot on the Wall of Fame, won't he?
And then until he sells.
Until he sells, in which case he can be handily moved to the Wall of Shame. But all in good time, Michael. We can't just put you on the Wall of Fame, permanently just like that. There's a long process to go through, but it's underway. Okay, now for the Wall of Shame, we went a bit different. We decided to put a chart.
A pair, particularly a pair. Pair. ETH versus Bitcoin. Oh my God. The lowest level since May 2020. Oh, damn, bro.
That is painful. That is horrible to look at, isn't it?
You can see the hope of all the ETH maxis going to the sky when the merge came, and you saw that green. Look at those green candles, those weeks over there, just rallying up there.
Yeah.
And then look where we are now.
An absolutely brutal.
What a round trip against Bitcoin. Yeah.
I think this has to go on the Wall of Shame, just because I think this encapsulates in one image basically most people's feelings at the moment. Anyone who's in altcoins, that's why you're feeling like you feel.
Yeah, although to be fair, I think ETH has even underperformed some other altcoins way more. I think that it's just not catching a bid.
Yeah. I'm sure Ben Cowan will have something to say about ETH going home on this week's NFA Live.
Okay.
I will be sure to. I'll be sure to ask him about it. I'm sure he'll say something about
it. Unprompted, just basically, guys. I'd like to start off the stream to say ETH is finally going home.
Okay, let's talk about Liberation Day, which is due to happen on Wednesday, and is basically the reason why the markets are in such a mess at the moment. And as I said again earlier, it's not just crypto, folks. Stocks are suffering too because of this. So this is when Trump's reciprocal tariffs, these kind of revenge tariffs.
There we go, man. America.
Oh, look at that.
America. They're going to chuck those. They're going to throw on tariffs quicker than they threw that tea in the harbor over in Boston, bro. freed from the strictures of free trade.
Okay, this is a sort of global Boston Tea Party.
There we go, man.
Like. So there's a lot of uncertainty around these. There's been so much kind of back and forth flip-flopping on these tariffs, but we're going to find out on Wednesday just where we are with these tariffs. Nothing is set in stone. A lot could change between now and then, and indeed a lot could change after that.
Indeed. I mean, even just looking prior to this. So here's a headline from last week, just to give you an indication. White House narrows April 2nd tariffs. That's just last week on the Wall Street Journal. Headline this week.
Broader.
Broader, whatever. So there's been a lot of volatility around what we could be seeing with these tariffs. And I think obviously, before we get into some of the analysis, it may help for the people who've heard a lot about these reciprocal tariffs, what exactly they are, which countries they're going on, etc. So we'll give you a very high-level view. This is a really helpful website. This is the Tax Foundation, which breaks down the timeline. But there's reciprocal tariffs. So these are basically tariffs that are going on to many other countries that have tariffs on the US already, about 25 countries in total plus. And this will impact about $1.5 trillion worth of imports by the end of April. So that's massive. There's also reciprocal, not only reciprocal, there's full 25% tariffs that are going on Canada and Mexico again. There's a graphic of all the trades. There's this 25% tariff going on in Canada and Mexico. If you recall, this was delayed on March 4th. And it excluded cars and everything, but now cars are still going on for 25% tariffs from Canada and Mexico. China tariffs are going up to 45%, although Trump has said, hey guys, well, I'll lessen that if you can throw TikTok in the deal.
This is such a Trump move, isn't it? This is just, it's hard to know whether this is just mad or kind of genius in a way, but it's very sort of wheeler dealer, isn't it? It's very sort of used car sale.
He must have a fun. He must enjoy TikTok. He must enjoy watching those TikTok dances and
he's got it. It's odd his position on TikTok, isn't it? Because he was really against it, and then found that it probably got him quite a lot of votes this time round, and is suddenly all in favour. But yeah, that's kind of mad. But yeah, I mean the EU particular, this is such a geopolitical shift, isn't it? The fact that Trump and his administration are so anti-EU, 200% tariff on alcohol from EU countries.
Yeah, kill the champagne industry.
He did say Scotch whiskey.
He did say something funny. He said that they can get champagne great champagne in California, whereas if you know champagne, you can't. There's only one region that can call it champagne, right? Yeah,
and look, American whiskey, bourbon, rye, etc. All well and good, but Scotch is way better. But Trump is teetotal.
He teetotal, yeah, exactly. He doesn't drink, so it wouldn't harm him.
So he literally DGAF.
Yeah. There's also 25% secondary tariffs, which are tied to Venezuela, or more specifically, any countries that are buying Venezuelan oil, like China, India, and Spain, will face 25% tariffs. Okay. And what's interesting is the news just broke this morning that Trump could be considering similar tariffs on Russia, which could be massissive. Yeah.
Well, so this would be obviously Russia's already sanctioned up the wazoo, isn't it? But so this would be tariffs on countries that are buying Russian oil, which is basically China and India.
Yeah, I think there could be others as well. I mean, I don't know, but I think that they get around it a lot, quite effectively with their shadow fleet, etc. So what's the economic impact of these tariffs? Well, I mean, one thing we can look at is Trump has done tariffs like this before in his previous term. And the overwhelming consensus was that it did lead to higher prices that were borne by the consumer. Of course, higher import costs, higher inflation. There are other goals, longer-term goals around reassuring manufacturing, which is just they haven't been able to achieve, but they hope this could bring on. But anyways, the macroeconomic growth impacts is potentially that we could see it dampen US GDP growth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, that could, a falling GDP, that puts us in danger of a recession.
Exactly, and Goldman Sachs actually just yesterday came out and increased the chances of a US recession from 20% to 35%.
Okay.
And JP Morgan, I recall, 2 weeks ago had the chances at 40%. So this is so that's the big concern right now, of course, is a recession. And what impact is this having? Obviously, that's the economic impact and all that, but what impact is this having on the markets? Now, let's start obviously with the TradFi markets, because that's driving everything. There's been a lot of positioning already going into the tariffs themselves, in the sense that people have been adjusting their portfolios. But there is now a risk-off tilt, obviously. So they're moving towards defensive assets, things like US Treasury funds, defensive equity sectors, and then of course gold ETFs. Gold ETFs have seen massive inflows.
I mean, gold just hit a new all-time
high, and tokenized gold is also really doing really well, right?
And so we did a video on gold recently, and we've also got a video on silver coming up as well, because the gold silver ratio is I think at about 89. So that's 89 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold. And basically anything above 80 sort of says buy silver.
Interesting.
So silver could be an interesting one to
It's
watch.
commodities alpha, you know. You guys don't just come here for crypto alpha, you come here for commodities
You come
alpha
for
as
the
well.
crypto, you stay for the commodities. So,
There you go, man.
yeah.
But there's also been a rotation to domestic plays, moving from the MAGA to the MEGA. You'll have seen the stocks in Europe have just been performing very well, especially defense plays.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's this expectation potentially of policy response. Is the Fed going to, you know, is it? There's thoughts that, okay, there's always this Fed put in the markets, right? So if we do go into recession, and then the Fed will step in and turn on the taps for monetary stimulus.
I've got to say, like, because I think Trump has been sort of mentioning. I think after the last FOMC meeting, he said, oh, you know, it'd be a good idea to drop interest rates. Lowering interest rates would be good. And I really do think Jerome Powell will have to be, you know, will do that over his dead body. Do you know what I mean? I think he's determined that he won't drop, you know, he just does not want to see inflation rear back up again.
Because remember back in the 70s, the second bout of inflation, that's the killer.
Yeah.
So whoever is going, it's either Jerome or whoever Trump gets after that to turn on the taps. I mean, look, it depends on where inflation goes, right? It's still, you know, still sticky, but it's not exploding yet.
Yeah.
We shall see. And then, of course, what does this mean for the crypto markets? Obviously, it's been following the stock markets recently with a correlation to NASDAQ near all-time highs, of course. In fact, the Trump tariff threats have been pretty well broken down in this Cointelegraph timeline. And you can kind of map that to all of the most recent falls in Bitcoin, right? And it's just all been macro is crypto right now. However, Bitcoin is showing some signs of strength. This is according to Marcus Thielen from 10x Research. And he says Bitcoin is attempting to form a bottom supported by Trump's recent shift toward flexibility on the upcoming April 2nd reciprocal tariffs, softening his earlier rhetoric.
Yeah. It's going to be such an interesting thing to see over the coming months and years. Like let's assume that these tariffs stick. You know, that Trump kind of sees these through. This is going to cause such a massive, I mean, you talked about reshoring, you mentioned reshoring earlier. This is going to cause such a massive shift in global supply chains, in how things are manufactured and where they're manufactured. And that process, in the long run, that process could be a positive. It could definitely be a positive for the US, and it could indeed be a positive for other markets as well. But the journey to get there is probably going to be so painful because it requires so much upheaval, and it's hard to imagine that ordinary consumers aren't going to be in the United States and elsewhere. It's hard to imagine that they aren't going to really suffer, and this could last for years. Yeah,
I mean, it's true, but I guess it comes back to the point around short-term pain, long-term gain. And remember, it's not just Trump. I mean, Trump is, you know, he's going ahead and talking the policies, but who's actually designing these policies are some really smart people behind it, likely Scott Bessent. In terms of the strategies around here, you need to bring down fiscal spending, you need to bring down fiscal deficits, you need to increase domestic oil production, you need to bring growth to 3%, and all of this stuff is going to require short-term, you know, upheaval in the markets because and like they've said, we're willing to sacrifice that in the short term for the longer goal. Trump doesn't have to get re-elected after his first.
Well, he is talking about a third term, which is frankly a bit scary.
Well, anyways, but yeah, I mean. The point is, it's like there is going to be some upheaval in the short term. And that's why very few people have attempted it, because they're worried about, if the stock markets continue crashing, if I cause a recession, you know, and that's why you have the situation with 6% budget deficits, billions going towards more interest is spent, more interest payments have gone out in the US fiscal spending than there is on defense.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. And so many other economies. I mean, I think the US is a bit of an outlier in terms of how much debt it is and how much it has to pay to service that. But lots of other economies, certainly Western economies, are you know, up to their eyeballs in debt as well. And you think sooner or later, like, you know, there's going to be a reckoning for this unless something happens to stop that.
Yeah, you have to.
Okay, well, food for thought there. It's going to be an interesting
Interesting
few
week.
years.
Years, week, month, years, we shall see. But if this backdrop hasn't made you bearish, or indeed if you are bearish and you want to trade or you want to sell, buy Bitcoin, or if you're feeling peckish and pick up some altcoins, you know, then you could always use one of our brand partners. This is Binance. Now, Binance, we've got a exclusive 20% trading fee discount for life, as well as a $600 bonus when you sign up and create an account with a link down in the description. So you can buy your coins on Binance, and then you'll obviously want to secure your coins in the best hardware wallet around. This is, of course, the Ledger devices, and this is the Ledger Flex and Stacks. And I will point out, guys, that right now for the next 3 days, if you buy a Ledger Stacks or Flex using the link down below, you'll get now this has been increased from last week. There's a $70 of Bitcoin gift card that you can load your Ledger up with after the purchase. So for the next 3 days, if you guys have been thinking about buying a Ledger, now's your opportunity, exclusively only for Coin Bureau viewers. Link down below.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the best discounts you will get on a Ledger device. I've also done an unboxing video, which you can watch over on More Coin Bureau. Showed you how to set up the Ledger Stacks. That one is. There's also the Ledger Flex as well. So that video takes you through how to set it up, what sort of features it's got, what's in the box, etc. And well, spoiler alert, it's very, very easy to do. Very, very simple. So if you haven't got your crypto secured on a hardware device yet, now's the time.
I must say, guy, that was probably the best unboxing video I've seen in crypto. Linus Tech Tips and Unbox Therapy have got some competition, man. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, Nick.
If the crypto thing doesn't work out, man, you can always unbox phones and stuff.
Oh, wow. That is the most backhanded compliment I've ever had. Look, guy, if it all goes down the toilet, maybe you could be one of those irritating unboxing people. Maybe you could do it on TikTok. Thanks, Nick. Thanks so much.
Yeah, the Samsung Galaxy versus the iPhone. Let's go and do it.
Okay.
Anyways,
I'm so depressed now. I want to also give a shout out to our other brand partner, which is Arkham. Arkham Intelligence, the premier on-chain tracking tool out there. This is definitely a tab that you need to have open.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously you'll be following their Twitter account if you aren't, but they sometimes have information on their dashboard that you won't see them sharing. For example, there was this insight last week on the dashboard of a whale who bought $247 million on Coinbase.
Of Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Yes, Bitcoin on Coinbase. So it may not just have been another big buyer was out there purchasing Bitcoin, or it could have just been another one of Michael Saylor's alt accounts.
Saylor's alt accounts.
Yeah, just alt accounts buying some Bitcoin.
There was also news that Pump.Fun is still depositing to Kraken.
Exactly.
Still extracting.
Someone's making money, man.
Someone's making money, yeah.
Yeah.
And should also point out that Arkham have an exchange that is available to US users.
Yeah.
And there's a 50% off trading fees for the first month, exclusively for Coin Bureau viewers.
There we go, down below, guys.
Okay, let's now have a look at last week's top performers. And we're going to start with, this is a bit of a crazy one. This is CRO, Crypto.com's exchange token, CRO. Now, basically, CRO has pumped bigly on the news of a partnership with Trump Media and Technology Group, TMTG, and basically, more crypto ETFs.
Oh, yeah, man, can't wait.
That's what we
just need another
now.
altcoin ETFs. Just bring on the altcoin ETFs, man.
Yeah. Now, what's crazy about this, and now I guess this pump is, but this is the sort of pump that you would expect on this sort of news. But what's crazy is that Crypto.com recently forced through this reminting of 70 billion CRO. Now, these had been burned, and I put burned in inverted commas. These had been burned, and Crypto.com basically just went through it. It says forces through. They, I think the community, as you can imagine, were not really in favor of this, but they did it anyway. And what's wild is that you can see the effect of that remint on the chart. CRO did take a dip, but it's nothing compared to the pump that it got from this TMTG partnership.
Yeah, man. If it looks suspicious to you, then that's probably because it is suspicious. I don't know what's going on with the dynamics behind the pump there, man. If that seems inorganic, then maybe.
Zach XBT was pretty scathing about it as well. He tweeted. Do we have Zach XBT's tweet there? Yeah, your team just reissued 70 billion CRO a week ago that was previously burned forever in 2021. No, it wasn't burned.
the definition of burned has changed.
Yes, yes, we're redefining what burned actually means. Okay, so that is CRO. That was the top gainer of this week. It tells you a lot about the kind of market we're in at the moment. Next up, we have Zcash.
Yeah, this is weird. It was possibly caused by a tweak to the tokenomics. The Network Sustainability Mechanism, or NSM, introduces voluntary deflationary actions like burning ZEC to fund future block rewards. So it's interesting because ZEC is like Monero has also been crushing it recently, right?
Yeah.
The privacy coins have been crushing. You know, I think I have a theory that for this potentially because of the fact that the Treasury took off the Tornado Cash sanctions.
Yes.
And it potentially could mean that the utility of privacy is important again. And if with a pro-crypto regulatory regime, you can't, how can you be restricting Monero, like listing on exchanges or take issues with Monero if you're okay with the Tornado Cash smart contract? So potentially that could be it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as other people have pointed out before as well, obviously one of the great things about the blockchain is that it's transparent and stuff like that. But, institutions aren't all that keen or rather than saying aren't all that keen on transparency, are pretty keen on privacy.
Yeah, of course, if you're moving that amount of money.
Yeah, you can imagine that there will be, if regulations allow, which is possible under this new administration, then privacy coins could be about to see even more of an explosion. And yeah, as that tweet said, Monero has also been sort of quietly crushing it. Another thing that's been quietly crushing it is a blast from the past.
When did they change their logo, first of all? Was that before the logo to change to Volta?
Yes, the logo changed a couple of months ago, I think, about then.
So they changed the logo. They're like, actually, we know this is not working. Let's change the whole name entirely as well.
Yeah. So this is EOS, which recently rebranded to Volta. It's something to do with Web3 banking, apparently. Yes, this is obviously EOS, as you'll remember. The highest ICO raise ever, over $4 billion, lasted a whole year. And the EOS blockchain, EOS hasn't been great for EOS holders, but it has worked out just fine for Brendan Bloomer, the CEO of Block One, which is a sort of parent company behind EOS. Brendan, congratulations to him, has just bought a 170 million euro villa.
Is that villa must probably be worth more than the entire market cap of Volta.
Well, the crazy thing is, it might not even be like, I think Volta, or I refuse to call it Volta, EOS still has a pretty insane market cap for given what it is or what it isn't.
Wow.
But yeah, this was the highest value transaction in the history of Italian real estate.
Oh, bro!
So congratulations
to he played,
EOS
and to be honest, EOS settled with the SEC 25 million, and the bag that they took in Block One.
Yeah, well, they bought Bitcoin.
They bought Bitcoin, exactly. Yeah,
yeah, which is now worth billions.
Yeah. Like 15 billion, something crazy, right?
Yeah. Okay, so that was EOS. Next up, this one again. This appeared in last week's top performers. This is FOR. The ticker is FORM. Again, this sort of rebranded crypto is now a sort of GameFi platform. Yeah. I couldn't figure out why it's been pumping.
It's a mystery. It shall remain a mystery.
It's a mystery. One of those things. And finally, in the top gainers, it's this one. This is Core. Now, this is a Bitcoin staking protocol.
Interesting. Yeah. I think this is probably, a lot of excitement around Bitcoin staking in general. I note that some of the biggest, I don't know what the TVL on this one is, probably lower than Babylon, right, which is out now, which still hasn't hit a TGE yet.
Yeah, and so I think the thing with Core is that it's the only live staking protocol.
Well, live in the sense that the token
Bitcoin
is live.
Yeah. So it does suggest that there is a fairly high demand for staking BTC, which I suppose in this sort of market, maybe a lot of people are thinking, we'll just get some yield.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tweets of the week, guys. Let's grow.
Okay, tweets of the week. Let's start off then with this one here from, who have we got?
Financial, this is from, one sec, just pop it up, there we go. Yeah, that's been us for the past two months, guys, just lying there in bed. the notifications of all of the financial, the FinTwit tweets coming through.
Oh, yes.
Yes, there we go.
That's just how it feels at the moment, lying awake at night, thinking of crypto.
And just Trump, just what and also the Trump notification.
Yeah.
Tariff, tariff there, tariff everywhere. Next tweet.
Okay, this is a shitpost par excellence from Mert, a big figure in the Solana ecosystem. After suspicious market activity, the Solana validator set has convened and voted to disable all sell orders for the Sol token. Details will be shared shortly, and the network will come out stronger as a result of this. Obviously, this is a hit at Hyperliquid.
Yeah. To be clear, guys, that cannot be done, and it wasn't done. In case you were wondering, just
he wasn't sharing alpha
wasn't
here. Folks. Yeah, great shitpost from Mert there. Next up, this one from Intern. Yes, being illegal shadowy supercoders was cooler than being US government endorsed industry participants.
Yeah, it's not cool anymore. You go to the bar, you tell people, I'm in crypto. Oh, you mean like those suits in Washington? Boring.
Yeah.
I thought you were illegal. I thought you were a bad boy.
Did you buy the ETF? Okay, and we also have this one. Now, we included this one, which was one of our tweets, because we thought this was an interesting little survey, the results. So we asked you, Trump's tariffs are coming this week. What's your Bitcoin price prediction for the first month of Q2? So what's your price prediction for April?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And yeah, over half of you are bearish. Over half of respondents were bearish, below 80K. I'm just amazed that almost 15% were that bullish. Above 100K by the end of April.
The distribution's that way because the tails are there's upside and downside risks. I mean, it's a situation of you never know what Trump could come out and do. I think it's likely potentially in between the 80 to 100K range, and maybe more on the side of above 90K. Because I'll see.
Okay, so you're quite bullish.
Quite bullish, man. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Nick, do you want to take us through some coins to watch?
Yep. So today is an important day. It's the launch of the GUNS token. Now, if you guys don't know what GUNS is, this is basically the token for the Gunzilla games, which is, of course, the creator behind the off-the-grid battle royale shooter, which you did a video on last week. You played it. It's a really interesting game, right? And it's been taken on board by a lot of Web 2 streamers as well, gaming streamers, and it's a very exciting game. And now, of course, is the launch of their native token, the utility token, the GUNS token, as well as the NFTs, and it's going to be on an Avalanche subnet, and that's going live soon. So that's it's be interesting to see. I think it's definitely the biggest GameFi launch of this year. So far,
yeah, be interesting to see how that does.
Yeah, I should of course mention that we have also invested in Gunzilla tokens and off the grid.
Yeah.
And then today on March 31st as well, Binance is to delist a whole bunch of stablecoins that are non-MiCA compliant for trading pairs for European users. To be clear, right? So this is, the likes of Tether, all of that stuff.
Yeah. So if you are a crypto user in Europe, it is worth checking which stablecoins Binance will be delisting.
Yeah.
Because of those very stringent MiCA rules.
Yeah.
Okay, and we also coins to watch. There's also a massive unlock coming this week. A massive unlock.
47% of circulating supply wormhole. Crazy. Okay. Yeah. So that's definitely not a win. That's an L for the potential price impact. Well, I don't know. It's obviously it's not going to investors. It's going to ecosystem and core contributors and nodes. But it's obviously a lot of supply coming on the market. So it could have potentially been priced in, but I would be cautious of dipping in right now. Maybe wait until after the actual unlock itself if you are bullish on interoperable wormhole protocol.
Yeah. Okay. So some dates for the diary as well.
Yep. As you mentioned, April 2nd, that's Liberation Day. Set the calendars, guys, And then April 4th is a really big day from an economic standpoint because we've got the NFP, non-farm payrolls. 140K is expected versus 151K, which is previous. And then we've also got unemployment data, which is 4.1% versus 4.1% expected and 4.1% previous. So that's obviously very important from the perspective of Fed policy, one of the mandates of the dual mandate employment.
Yeah. Okay. So as ever, lots of data to look out for. I just want to scroll through some of the comments that we've been having as well. It's a good comment game going up. Like I say, people are generally more chipper than the market would suggest, which is excellent to see. Keeps Format was asking, we missed Guy's cousin Barry. I hope he's okay. I'll send him your best wishes. Brett, you weren't quite right there. Barry didn't die in a knife fight. They didn't steal his kedger. I presume.
Kedger.
I don't know what his kedger
Is that some? Is that some like a Cockney term for something?
I think it might be. I think
Kedger.
it might be. I can confirm that Barry was involved in a knife fight, and that is all I can say at the moment. But I'm sure he appreciates good wishes. Okay, lots of comments about your suit, Nick.
Oh man, come on! So I should just be wearing a suit often. Just elicit. I should just come and like constantly mix it up every single week, because then people will. It will obviously elicit a lot of reactions and responses and comments in that. So what the people enjoying it?
People are enjoying it. They say you look very sharp. So
there you go. I'm not always wearing shorts, I can also.
It's just because he most of the time he looks like he's just wandered in off the beach. Suddenly he puts on a shirt and a suit and he's Patrick Bateman. Okay, fine. Crypto Bellwether has an interesting take here. The hyper trader is a genius, and you have to account for that. He manipulated within the rules, and if nothing else, hyper is the criminal manipulator. Well, like we said earlier, the trades were in the rules of the protocol. It's the manipulation that was happening off Hyperliquid. That was the criminal element to it.
Yeah, the intent was to basically, I mean, we'll have to see. I think it's like a matter of, the off-chain trades, right? Specifically created in order to get this into liquidation, and knowing that the liquidation would have to be taken over by the HLP. To be really interesting if ever this gets to court, because I don't know, there may be some sort of defenses, who knows, but it's a difficult one. Yeah.
Crypto Bellwether, I get the impression you're very much a code is law person, which you have to respect. Costa is asking, when does the printer go brrr?
Not some time, unfortunately. Yeah, I think we first have to finish the QT, which is coming soon, and then rates will have to continue dropping to close to zero before any sort of QE, and we only expecting another 50 basis points or 2 rate cuts this year before we get to the end of this year. So QE potentially not even this year, but who knows what happens with the economy, right?
Of course, yeah. I think the only way we get QE anytime soon is if we have an absolutely brutal recession. So be careful what you wish for, Costa. It's Ray says Bitcoin heading to 70K before 90K. Quite possible.
It's possible. It's possible. Yeah.
Okay. Steadybug is very much on the side of the US. The US basically ensured world dominance for the next 20 years. We will take some pain to screw everyone else. I think that certainly seems to be the plan.
That is the plan. That is exactly the plan. It's been talked about by his chief economic advisor.
Yeah,
he wrote a paper on this.
Yeah. I guess it kind of depends what China's going to make of that.
Yeah, the one trump card that China could pull,
beautiful,
is dumping U.S. treasuries.
Yes,
because that would obviously send yields spiking, and that would go counter to Trump's plan of bringing down interest rates.
Yeah, they've also built a lot of big, scary weapons as well.
That is true, yeah. China, yeah. And the world's biggest commercial fleet that can be quickly repurposed into naval stuff, yeah.
If I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here, but if you get into the weeds of kind of what China is building, its industrial base, in terms of all the military stuff that it's building, it does kind of keep you up at night a little bit. It is kind of scary what they're working on. Philip says, this is so easy. You guys just got to hang on for a couple more weeks. Oh, we can do that.
We can do that,
couple more weeks. Okay. Philip is bullish. I love the fact that whenever Monero gets mentioned, the XMR bulls come out of the woodwork. XMR is the real Bitcoin.
It is the real private, permissionless digital cash that Bitcoin was always meant to be, unfortunately.
Now, Michael, someone was saying earlier 70K before 90K. Altcoin are hoping for 70K because they lost so much money, but 70K will not happen. 100K next. Look at this bullishness.
Yeah, we go, man. Love it.
JC for Life says, oh, wow, Nick looks so sharp. Oh, God's sake. Keep up the classy wardrobe. Guy, get it together.
Thank you, Rose. Appreciate it.
How many alt accounts does Nick have, and who is operating them? Marcelo says, crypto market crashing below 80K. Nick not in shorts anymore. Seriously, God, I haven't been punched enough. So what, you want you like the suit, but you want the shorts back? Look, I'm bringing the shorts. What's wrong? And Jonas says, bull market is over.
Nah, I don't believe that, man. Definitely not.
Okay, well, that's good to know. That's good to know. So I must say, apart from Jonas, I'm very pleased to see the positivity in the comments.
Yeah,
I must
like
say.
it. Keep your head up, guys. I like it, man.
Yeah.
Keep calm and hodl on.
Keep calm and hodl on. Drew says, hang on, I want to bring this one up. We might as well make it all about Nick, mightn't we? Nick is Bay.
Bay.
There we are.
There we go.
There we are.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it, man. Drew, you're the man, man. You're the man.
And we've got a really bullish one here. See you in September at 160K. Wow.
Bullish.
If we get to 160K, will you wear like some sort of gold suit, perhaps?
We're full on tux, What else? Salvatore Ferragamo, perfectly, suited.
There we are. Every reason to hope Bitcoin goes to 100K. All right, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's been great to see you. It's not the best week for crypto, but it's good to see so many of you in such a positive frame of mind. It could be a lot better next week, and we will, of course, be back with another episode of the Coin Bureau News Live.
Have a great week, guys. Cheers.
See you then.
Don't creep and around the